So, yeah, first off, thank you everybody for joining us. I know it's short notice and it's going to be a pretty tight schedule to complete rulemaking on this with the January 1st implementation date. So, first of all, congratulations on getting the bill passed. We have the chief sponsor of the bill on our call today as well. So, thank you for joining us, Vicky. And when bills are passed, we have some specific criteria about when an agency may um, come out in favor of a bill or just remain neutral. So in this case, we are neutral, publicly for the process. But I can tell you in the background, we think you've done some tremendous work here. So thank you for doing that. And even though we are under a tight timeline, we're excited to do the work. So thank you for joining us. So a little bit about a timeline, and Michelle brought that up on the screen. We do have some essential and fixed dates for the agency in order to move this forward by January 1st. Uh, Somewhat overlapping this is the fact that LARC has to be updated for next year. So we have a process with our board to approve LARC, but then also some of this and the LARC content can't be completed until we figure out how we're implementing the bill. So these are interrelated, and so creates a little tighter timeline. So we're meeting today and probably again on Friday, I'm guessing, if we don't get through this. And then we'll send the proposed rules out. We send them to the board. We have to publish a notice of proposed rulemaking. And then part of that process is we have to give 45 days notice to legislators before the effective date. So we got to build in about 50 days extra there. And then we have a public comment period that's required for rulemaking too. So we need to allow public time to comment on anything you've all agreed to. And then we also have a board meeting coming up on August 4th. We want to present what we've done so far to our board. After the public comment period, we also have to conduct a hearing. So that would be towards the end of August. And then after the rulemaking hearing, we have another period of public comments. And then in order to have the rule effective by January 1st, we have to file them as well. Our goal for that would be September 5th. And then during the month of September, we would incorporate these rules into the LARC objectives, because the LARC course has to have learning objectives that tie to all new legislation. So we need to know what those rules are in order to have learning objectives associated with them. And then, of course, another part of this bill is separating out state and fair housing class from LARC. So we need to have a parallel track on developing what that outline would look like. And then the reason we want to get this all done well ahead of January 1st is not just the rulemaking requirements, but out of fairness, we have to give our CE providers time to develop their new course before January 1st. So we try to give them the months of like October through December as long as possible to update their courses in preparation for next year. And then because our proposal includes possibly modifying the advanced practices course, that set of CE providers needs time to also update their advanced practices course. And then in December, we'll work on communication. We need to communicate to all licensees on what all these changes are. So that's the timeline. You can take that down then, Michelle. Any questions on that before we get into the fun part? And by fun, I mean fun. Okay, so as we talk through this document, kind of visualize that everything falls into one of several categories. One can be definitions, where we try to clarify concepts or something in the bill for ease of reading or ease of understanding. So there are some new definitions incorporated into the draft rules. The second group of like categories you can think of when you look through this is editing. Are we adding language to bring rules into alignment with the new requirements of House Bill 3137. So some of that is like we've updated, cross out one word, replace with another, all over the place. That's just editing, replace one for something else. The third thing you look at is how is the agency interpreting what's in the bill in order to regulate them under our existing parameters, under existing processes, how they relate to other rules in place. So that's again the interpretation part that the agency is charged with to adopt rules in relation to a new law. Then the fourth part is cleanup. Quick example of that is Michelle sent out an email yesterday trying to clarify, or I'm sorry, clean up a very outdated set of rules for record keeping that you look at today, you're like, what the heck was that all about? So trying to make it as easy as possible to clean up. Why not try to clean up these rules whenever we can? So we threw that at you at the last minute too. Okay, so that's kind of a roadmap for today. Today's objective is to take all your feedback, update the draft rules as needed, and then reconvene. Now I know we may not get through all these pages today anyway, so we have to meet again. But anyway, today is really about taking in feedback. And we'll go through basically page by page. Some pages we're going to breeze right through because it is just editing. Others might require more conversation on how we're interpreting something compared to like how you as the bill writers visualize this going forward, like how you visualize the agency interpreting this. So I think generally we'll be in alignment, but there could be some things that are like, no, that's not what we meant. So all good? Okay, so let's move forward. Michelle's going to bring up the draft document you all have. And then, Michelle, would it make sense to include your talking point notes on the side in this screen, or does that get too confusing?
I'd be happy to do that. Make sure the
Okay,
comments here.
you sent that along with the document, right? And you sent it to
Yes.
them? Okay,
Hmm.
cool. All right. So this first one is just introducing a new definition. Because the bill introduces this new concept of managing principal broker, it's not a new licensing type. It's just it's a distinction, right? For managing principal broker. So we tried to come up with a term that distinguishes between the managing principal broker and something that a managing principal broker can still delegate to another PB. So we came up with this term authorized principal broker. At first, we had come up with the term authorized licensee, but that includes all types. So we thought, let's narrow it and define it authorized principal broker. Any concern about that concept as it gets incorporated a bazillion times throughout the document? Any concern on that first? If not, I'll just consider you agreeing with that concept. All right, moving forward then. Um, at the bottom of the page here, we have inserted managing principal broker as defined in the House bill. Once the bill is codified, I don't know what this process looks like. Michael can help if he needs to. We remove reference to House bills and it becomes actual statute, right? But for now, it's just referencing House bill. So that's just basically incorporating what's in the bill. Any question on that? No, probably not.
Do
Okay.
you want editing like missing a quotation or
If you catch stuff like that as you go along, please do. Yeah, tell me if you
number 11, managing principal broker has one quote but not another. But
got it. Thank you.
don't
All right,
want
yeah,
to
if you
wordsmith
catch
with
stuff like that.
everything if you don't want it.
Yeah, we are proofreaders here too, absolutely.
Yes, please.
We'll probably catch a lot of this anyway in a final cleanup, but we may not. Um, there are typos in the rule right now that have existed for decades. All right, next page. This concept of receiving and sending principal broker. Is that a new concept that's in the bill for some reason? I think so, right?
It's not a new concept. It
Okay.
was used previous. The term was used previously. It's mostly for transferring
Okay.
licensees, and also for when a licensee moves from one business to another business, and they may have an ongoing transaction.
Okay. So this is for clarity then, right? When it comes
Right.
to transferring brokerages. Michelle's going to chime in a lot because she did all this work. I just get to talk about it, but she does the work. So, she has rationale for why some of this stuff was added. So thanks, Michelle. Okay, so that goes go on the next page then, I guess. Um, Here is when we start inserting the terms managing versus authorized. And I'm going to scroll through this, and since I can't see all of you on the screen, just talk if you have a question, because just take yourself off of mute. Here again, we're introducing managing and authorized. On this page, we are, you want to give clarity what that means, Michelle? You change it from specify to register.
It was just clear. I was just clarifying. It was just making it simple for the
Okay.
language more simple there.
All right, because it's specify the applicant. Yeah, it's just clarifying language. Okay, good. Same thing with the next part. Okay. I'm going to keep scrolling unless you chime in. This just seems like clarity stuff. Again, registration. There was a concept we talked about, Michelle, where you can't be a managing principal broker until you've registered it. So we have to make sure that the language allows for the fact that you can't be that until you've done something first. Right,
Right.
Michelle? Like you have to register in order to be calling yourself that, managing principal broker.
Right. And we just made that kind of clear on both sections 3 and 4 of this. In section 3, it's just talking about if you're applying for a principal broker's license, you either A, register business name, or B, you're going to be transferred into a existing business.
Okay.
And then 4 clarifies that once you register that business, if you choose to register a business name, once you register it and the registration's approved and processed, the principal broker applicant then becomes the managing principal broker for that business.
It's a way to basically describe the process
Correct.
in the right sequence of order. Okay, we can keep going then.
All right. And this is
just clarity stuff.
I had a question actually on number 6.
Yeah, go ahead.
Scroll up. I was just, and maybe I just don't understand the rule enough, but this one confused me. Previously held a principal broker license who wishes to be licensed as a principal broker again.
Yeah.
Once you're a principal broker, do you lose that or?
If you go back down to a broker status, right, Michelle?
correct. It's either yes. So if you a lot of people will choose to go down to a principal broker to a broker's license
Okay.
especially for in the Portland metro area for the
Okay,
purposes of
I haven't seen it in Eugene, so that's
Yeah.
why I was confused. All right.
Yeah, I think there's extra taxes in there potentially in Portland or something, so they may
Right.
revert back to broker.
Got
And
it.
yes. And should they
Yeah.
decide not to, should they decide later that they do actually want to become a principal broker, we're just clarifying you're going to have to go through the same process.
Okay, that makes more sense. That just
Sure.
doesn't apply to
Yep.
Eugene. Thank
That's a
you.
good question. Yeah, thanks.
Hey, while you're right there, can you go back up again to, I think it's 3, we were just talking about, so the on B, using the online application available. Okay, authorized principal broker must transfer the applicant to managing principal. To me, I got confused on that. So wouldn't they be transferring it to the authorized managing principal broker or no? I mean,
So
go ahead.
That's okay. So by definition, the managing principal broker is the person responsible for that registered business name, and therefore it's their RBN. So
Okay, under the OAR. Okay, gotcha.
Under that rule, yeah.
Okay.
This is just dealing with temporary authorization, so just adding the word managing principal broker there, easy cleanup. Limited license, nothing there. Here we're just Can you clarify? We put the word managing in, then cross that out. That's C. Should it be there?
Uh,
I've actually in both subsection C's we have.
yeah.
When you talked about the receiving principal broker before, it did not say
Right.
receiving
That's,
management.
I think that's what
managing.
happened. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It
Okay.
might make more sense to have it say receiving managing principal broker, but you'd have to change it on the prior area.
Yeah. Is it because? Why would it be because? I don't have an answer for that.
Well, so um, if a principal broker has been delegated authority through the been given
Yes.
supervisory control and authority, they can do this work as well.
So it
So
should
that's
be
why,
being authorized then, right?
Authorized principal
yes.
broker. Yes.
Well, actually, we defined receiving principal broker. So as person receiving the principal, we
It's already
defined it.
delegated.
Yeah, we defined it as receiving principal broker means a managing principal broker or a principal broker who has received supervisory and control responsibilities.
So for clarity, that would it just make sense to keep saying authorized so we don't, because what we just did will probably happen to somebody else. Like, why did you take that word out?
But then you'd need managing or authorized.
We put the word authorized back in just to be consistent. Right?
I think I would put it in authorized because then that a managing principal broker is by default authorized, and a non-managing principal broker can either be one that is authorized for supervisory rules or not.
May or may not be, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Authorized encompasses both.
Yeah, I
As
agree.
understand the language.
It creates confusion just to randomly take it out in one place and never somewhere else, right?
I think it would add clarity to have the word authorized.
So you would
put-
like to, would you like to define, so we have we have a definition at the beginning of this section or the division stating that we have receiving principal broker means an authorized principal broker essentially.
Mhm.
And so instead what you would like to do is say a receiving authorized principal broker.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'll make a note of that.
Let's do that. And then if we have any concerns about that later, we bring that back to you. But I think for today, I'm hearing that that's where you'd like to see it go. Yeah.
I mean, in all reality, it is defined, but we also know people get hung up on just going to the rules, not
Mhm.
necessarily the definitions.
Or flipping back to another rule that's referenced somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that back and forth that creates confusion sometimes. Like we live and breathe it. We don't think about it, but you all don't live and breathe it like we do. Yeah. All right.
Right. So I'll just go ahead and go through the document and make those changes.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I think, and happy to offer some more. I agree with the concept here. It's sort of a belt and suspenders approach because people aren't going to look at the definition. But whatever we do have to make sure it still syncs with
Mhm.
the definition and doesn't like undefine something because we doubled it up. So I just
Yeah.
we can get it right. We'll just take a closer look.
I appreciate you saying that, Jeremy, because sometimes we've started somewhere, we've changed it for a reason, but then you kind of lose sight of what that reason was. And then you're like, oh, there was a reason we took that word out initially. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm. You've done it a million times, I'm sure, too, like when you're writing bills. All right.
Yeah.
That's just adding the concept as appropriate.
Can you go back
Yeah,
to
go
that
ahead.
one?
Go back.
And I saw there was a comment there about looking for suggestions.
Oh, thank you.
Tracy,
Oh,
was there?
Yeah.
Or was there something that in particular that we were trying to get at for suggestions on this?
Was it related to the 51% ownership rule?
Oh, yes, this is Anna's. Yeah, she the whole concept of affiliate and a subsidiary organization has caused some. Uh, there's a lot of uncertainty and confusion about what this means because I think that we've kind of defined it here in the rule. Maybe not exactly as applies externally to the business world, and so and internally at least we don't have the knowledge or understanding of how to make it reflect, in practice.
Yeah, we're concerned, is this kind of an anachronistic criteria here, right? We just don't know. We're looking for your feedback on that.
I have a clarifying question. It's not directly related to the updates from 3137, but on this point, if there's a subsidiary organization, this rule right here says that, the only instance where a single RBN can cover multiple organizations is if it's subsidiary or affiliate. But if that's not what they want to do, can a subsidiary or affiliate have a separate RBN? Or can they only have the same RBN?
I'm sorry. Can you restate the question again?
All right, so if there's a subsidiary organization, are there two options? One option is that both the parent company and the subsidiary have the same RBN, and the other option is they each maintain a separate RBN. Are
Um,
both those options allowed under law?
so generally, this is for so that the purpose of this is to allow a managing principal broker to be the managing principal broker for more than one RBN, and then the RBN and then the relationship of the two RBNs there has to be some sort of relationship, is what my understanding is.
There are two RBNs, and this is dealing with like if the managing principal broker can be in two places.
Got it. Okay. But and I'm sorry, I know this isn't directly, but that helps me better understand and to know if there's any updates that are needed because this question came up yesterday when I was doing a class.
Okay.
So let's say that's the situation. There's a subsidiary organization. There is two RBNs, but there's one person managing both RBNs who's the head of the parent company.
Mhm.
When you talk about all the advertising rules and such, where you are needing to list the RBN, we're talking is the RBN of the subsidiary company sufficient? Is that what's being required by law?
For that managing principal broker, I'm sure that.
No, like let's say I work for I'm a broker for the subsidiary company
Oh.
that has its own RBN, even though that RBN is associated with and managed by a person who runs the parent company. I'm like advertising. And when I'm required under my advertising rules and other things to, list the company I work for,
Mhm.
is my listing of the subsidiary company sufficient?
That's a really good scenario.
Well, I think,
I sometimes different names.
I think in our situation where you would have that, if a licensee was listing a piece of property and their address would be that current for their office,
Right.
even though the managing principal broker can manage both. I think it would. I look at it like it would be okay with a subsidiary because that's where that licensee is at.
That's how I saw it too. But it's interesting it came up and there was a lot of people
Yeah,
who didn't
I'm
see it that
thinking
way.
of a
But
situation.
I think that's kind of the only way you can see it, or else you can't really have subsidiary companies. You can only have a parent company, so.
Yeah, and I think there was a situation where we had a principal broker who did, I have this wrong, but she's doing most of her business under one RBN, but then happened to have a controlling interest in another company. And so she could be in both places at once,
Mm-hmm.
but she wouldn't advertise under both companies at the same time.
Right.
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 Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry for the distraction. I just want to clarify.
No, that's a good one. We stumbled on this one too. So, because it doesn't come up very often, right? Except in the context of questions to our licensing division, and we're trying to offer the best answer we can. And so we're like looking to you all, like, is there a better way to describe this, or is something outdated or whatever? Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
So just previous administration. So I had a real estate team that marketed, their name real estate,
Mhm.
hybrid real estate, right? So they're like, but we were registered as a subsidiary so they could market that way.
Mhm.
So I'm just wondering, is this a loophole for the new teams situation where a team can register X real estate or have their principal broker register the team name, whatever it is, and then get around that, not, having to use group or team. Does that make sense?
If it aligns with this controller and the
Yeah.
ownership interest.
And actually, Kelly, that's the context that this came up because
Oh, okay.
but the way I see it, and I could be wrong, but the way I see it is that the answer is yet to your question is yes,
Hmm.
but it also is really the only way of doing it because otherwise you can't allow otherwise you wouldn't allow for subsidiary organizations to have an independent identity, and that would really be interfering with business practices, the ability of companies to expand and acquire and do certain things that they so I and because the yeah so
I mean,
it's
I took advantage of that when that, sign rule, it's like I have a big team that has to spend thousands of dollars on new signs because they changed the rule back in the day. And that's how we got around it, is we just registered another company.
Okay.
So anyway, I just bringing that to your
And we
attention.
maybe talk about that more when we get to the advertising part too, because under your bill, you can't use the term real estate to define your team.
Right, unless it's a subsidiary. And then
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now it might become more relevant. Right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just
Okay.
Hmm.
Maybe flag that for a future conversation. Jeremy's scratching his chin there.
Yeah.
Okay, next page. All right, so what are we done here, Michelle? Oh, because we moved sending and receiving somewhere else.
Correct, because it's
Okay.
used throughout the division, so we just moved the sending and receiving.
Put it in a new place. Okay, so we just moved it somewhere
Beginning,
else. Okay.
beginning division for the sorry, at the beginning of the division, there's a definition section. That's where we put it up. Yeah.
All right. Oh,
And
that's right, because it's kind of random to put the word what it means in the middle of something else. We put in definitions.
Right,
Okay.
especially if it's used more than once in a rule. So if it's just a rule specific, then we'll just do it in rule. But if it's throughout the division, then we will. It's easier just to define it
Mhm.
for the whole division.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thanks. That's all that's on this page then. Okay.
What's the difference between a registered business name and an assumed business name?
Registered business name is a term used by us for the specific purposes of what you would be advertising and working under in your professional real estate activity. So it has to be registered with our agency. I suppose it could be an assumed business name. I don't know.
Do we have use the term assumed anywhere in statute or rule?
I don't think we do.
Well, an assumed business name is something you can file with the Secretary of State.
Sure.
And I'm just thinking about it relative to that team perspective of, so if you, it sounds like if you were to use the word group or team, and you had a group or team brand identity, as it stands, you would, be also identifying the brokerage and the managing principal broker.
Mhm.
But, and, if you chose, you could, file an ABN with the state so that they know who was all associated with that group or team. But if you took it to the extent of doing an RBN filed with the agency, you could potentially have that group or team brand identity without needing to then acknowledge the parent brokerage, so to speak. Is my understanding there correct?
If that previous page of the ownership thing was met, right? I think.
Right. So then that managing principal broker of the parent brokerage would have to have 51% ownership in that registered business name, which in my example is a team or a group.
Jeremy, can you shed some light on the
In order to register, in order to be the managing principal broker for both, then yes.
Right, to be managing principal, yeah.
Yes.
And so then the policy would allow, in a circumstance where you had a managing principal broker of a brokerage, and you maybe had some associated licensees that wanted to form a team or a group, as long as that managing principal broker was considered to have 51% ownership in that team, they could then register a registered business name with the agency and could allow that team or group to advertise without having to acknowledge the parent brokerage. Or you could have a managing principal broker or brokerage, and you could have a team or a group using those terms, and they would not have that RBN, and they would still be required to be advertising and acknowledging the parent brokerage. So it's interesting because it affords two very different yet somewhat similar approaches to practice.
Yeah.
That and I mean, I think about it, many ways. We're working on policy. You've asked a bunch of practitioners, to bring in the business perspective, but then I think we also have to keep in mind, part of, the agency's objective is to, bring awareness to the consumer and protect the consumer as well, so that they're not confused, and that was kind of the idea of, when you are, they have so many of the advertising rules where you have to associate back to that parent brokerage so that it's clear to the consumer. And I think that potentially this policy, which affords two different approaches, could create consumer confusion.
Yeah, I saw the same issue, but now that I think about it, it might be okay, because if the teams are registering as their own entity with the agency, that creates more transparency with consumers, because now if they look up XY real estate group on the agency, it shows who the principal broker is and the licensees. So so it could work. It's just like a DBA, right? Of that brokerage. I don't like practical wise. It's like, how does that work in RMLS and, all those things. So it's a can of worms, but yeah, I'm kind of seeing the same little hiccup, and I guess we just need to decide.
That's
How we
fascinating. So
want
the
to
idea is like and we tried to take a light touch, but just for the sake of this conversation, by over regulating teams, you actually push people into creating a separate company, in which case they, in some respects, have less transparency. Oh, I see your argument. I think it cuts both ways. It's like there's more transparency in the fact they can look it up and get the information because it's registered, but
And
there's
then
less.
from our perspective on like the regulatory side of things and consumer protection, if even using this kind of, let's say it's a different path that we didn't anticipate, even if they do adopt that new path, if there's consumer harm, we still can investigate the licensee We can still hold the managing principal broker responsible. How much do I care as the commissioner that there's some other entity out there if I've really addressed the licensee violations with those who are responsible? You know, like what's that balance from my perspective on does it matter to me or to the consumer? Like, are they even harmed? If I can still hold the licensees responsible that the complaint is against. So that's more of a philosophical question too, right? Like, is it an unintended consequence of this bill that does or does not matter?
These aren't all winter.
Is that something we kind of like just deliberate more on and move on then?
Yeah, well, I think too, when
Yeah.
we get to the team disclosure, the team
Yeah.
section, there's a lot that you guys added in there. I think that
Good point.
might help with this.
And there's disclosure requirements in that too. So good observation, Michael. Okay, I think we'll come back to this then. Yeah. All right. There's more clarity, editing, authorize, still just editing. Okay. What do we do here? We updated the transfer process. Michelle, do you want to comment on that at all?
So it's a list of this is what when a sorry, just a second.
Shoot, I thought I could get away with that.
Let's roll. This is basically just what happens if someone becomes inactive, and then how do they become active again? And so I was just trying to make it a little clearer.
Clarify our process.
Right, exactly.
So
either,
go ahead.
yeah. So either online transfer application is available to the website. The receiving principal broker must complete that, or this is for principal brokers. So principal brokers, if they go inactive, they have two choices. They can either join another RBN, or they could register a business name and become the managing principal broker. So that's basically just kind of outlining those two possibilities.
Okay, so just kind of clarifying what our process would look like. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Okay. You have no objections, moving on.
Yeah, it's funny.
And we're managing all over the place. Keep going.
Right. This is just for if someone wants to authorize another. So managing principal broker wants to authorize someone else to another managing principal broker to control their business, and they don't have any principal brokers within their company.
And if I skim over anything too quickly, just stop me. I mean,
Yeah, go back up, Steve, because I saw authorized, managing, and supervising.
Okay. There's all managing there. Was that above
So
that?
3A and 3B, I'm looking at those.
I think it's just because it was just a definition for the because there's two managing principal brokers in this scenario. You have a managing principal broker who wants to assign the responsibility to another managing principal broker, and then there's the managing principal broker who's going to accept that responsibility. And so it's the authorizing managing principal broker, and then the one that's accepting the supervising responsibilities.
So in 3, we're kind of using the word in two different ways, right? It's the process of authorization versus being a person who's authorized. All in the same sentence.
Sorry, and if you hear an odd noise in the background, it's my dog snoring. Apologies for that. But the definition of managing principal broker in the bill encompasses this situation where you've got a transfer of authority for a period of time. Person who's registered or assumed responsibility for business name. So I think it fits. I think it fits.
Okay. So for reference, that's Michael Hannafin. He's our legislative coordinator here. So sorry, we didn't do introductions. I'm sorry. That's Mike Hannafin, who's on a different computer temporarily. So he has no name on there.
What I can do, I think I understand concern is that we've kind of made some changes farther up in the back in the bill about we're gonna have authorized. Oh shoot, I'm sorry. What was that again? I think it was authorized managing principal broker instead of
Yeah, we have
authorized
managing
principal broker.
broker, authorized principal broker, and just a
Yeah, so I think I can
new
see the
principal broker.
concern because we've changed. We decided to make the change instead of authorized principal broker. You went to authorized managing principal broker, which then makes this problematic. So I will go back to this and rewrite
Okay.
it. Yeah.
I sorry. So my question, if I'm following this, is we were talking about authorized managing principal broker, and in this context, authorizing isn't the same thing as authorized, right?
Correct,
So
but
I'm not sure.
but it is confusing. I can see why it would be confusing.
Okay, but I think that's fair, but I do think it's correct in the content, right? The meaning, I think, is accurate.
Mhm.
We have to come up with a way to change the language without changing the meaning, which is always interesting.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think as is explained, I can understand the meaning, but reading it without the explanation, it's confusing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Duly noted. Yeah. Michelle, you'll wordsmith that then. Okay. Thanks,
Yes.
Jason, for stopping us on that one. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So this is sorry. Go ahead.
Talk about this one, Michelle. Yeah.
So this is when you have one managing principal broker in the office. Sorry. This is when you have one managing principal broker in the office with no other property, sorry. This is when you have one managing principal broker in the office with no other principal brokers in the office, and you want to give authority to one of your brokers to supervise the business while you're gone.
Mhm. Okay. Yep. And I can tell you, happens very rarely, but may have to, yeah. Okay. Business. Very straightforward. Registered business name renewal. Let's see. This deals with what happens if something is not renewed, right?
It talks about the fact that you do need to renew it, and then it talks about what happens if you don't renew it.
Okay. Authorized principal broker. Okay, just adding the word. Okay, so this we wanted to just flag for consideration. We did not contemplate this in the bill. If this person's deceased or incapacitated.
Right. So the current bill did not get changed to reflect the new managing principal broker title. And so we might want to go back and have that fixed.
So basically clean up 696-205 in the future.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. Is there a workaround for us in the meantime?
I don't know.
How does
We
the
talk
how
about
does
requiring a succession plan or something, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, I was going to ask, how does the succession plan piece tie into this?
Aren't they exempt if they're just a single
Oh,
broker?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it has happened. So we do have this,
I've had to just authorize someone temporarily to kind of wrap up the business.
Is there a time frame on this though?
It's
I
been
know
kind of a
it,
judgment call, Michael. Like if we've done something on a temporary basis, we'll work with whoever's managing the estate or another broker. And like, how much time do you need to wrap this up? How many
okay,
transactions do
okay.
you
So
have?
you got, okay,
Yeah, like, when do your transactions close? Okay, we'll just close it. We'll just shut you down after that. It's basically we just work with the situation.
okay. Nope,
Mhm.
thanks.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
commissioner has a lot of latitude in just making sure that, yeah.
it's a total judgment call, and I've had to exercise it maybe like 5 times in 6 years. So not really an issue to get into. Yeah.
Now we're in Division 15. So I will also make the change here as well throughout the bill. We'll may change that to authorized principal broker. Or sorry, bill. I meant the rule.
Are these just definitions again? Yeah.
Yes, yes, because
Okay.
this is new. This is a new division. So the first one was basically licensing. This is the regulation
Oh,
piece
thank
of
you.
real estate.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
Kind of lost track of myself here. Okay.
that's okay. Um, and just yeah, we established real estate teams as defined in the bill. Um, we talked about compliance reviews here, just making sure the managing principal broker is the responsible person that gets the notice at least.
Notice. Yeah.
Same with this as well, reconciliations.
Because in this case, the managing principal broker may delegate that part of their business to another broker for property management. So that's accounting for that, basically.
Mhm. The agency will reach out initially to the managing principal broker, and then they can tell us who we should work with.
Who's running that part of the business? Typically in larger firms. Yeah. What do we do here? Not state or imply.
So
Okay.
your thought process on this, Commissioner, was that because we told them to be truthful and not deceptive and
Yes.
um, not state or apply that the licensee as a managing principal broker is responsible for operating the registered business, that we did not
Yeah.
need.
It became kind of redundant.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here we took out a lot of language for the team and group.
So do we want
Mostly,
to revisit that conversation about subsidiaries now and how that would work? Um, licensing.
basically just saying that it's rather than being specific here because we have now a definition in the statute, plus we have the additional uh, disclosure requirements that we have a separate section for. We just kind of
We
removed a lot of this out.
we did talk about this and wanted your feedback, and we kind of got it already. 7A, as we were talking about before, there could be a separate legal entity there. So I don't know if this is a true statement. We wanted to bring this. I forgot to flag it as a talking point, but is this really a valid statement?
Well, in that case, they wouldn't be a team; they would be a subsidiary. So if they chose that model,
Uh-huh.
then they'd be out of the team regulation and
Okay,
subsidiary. So I think it would still hold. Yeah.
got it. Thank you. Yeah, that's true. If they are a separate entity in a different RBN, then this is NA. Okay.
Just a question though about the on the team
Yeah,
name stuff
yeah,
because
yeah. Go
we
back.
didn't, the bill didn't really, I don't think, get into. I mean, obviously it says you can't use real estate or realty for the consumer confusion issue, but it didn't address some of these other issues that were in the rule, and then like
Oh,
unlawful use of a trade name, deceptively similar to another person lawfully doing business, all of that. So is there just want to better understand your thinking for taking these out?
thanks for coming back to that. Yes,
Yeah.
because it actually we did want to talk more about this, Michelle, didn't we? Um, what creates some confusion now is we've got this permissive language, not a prescriptive language on may use the term team or group, but there's kind of been this expectation it's more of a shall versus a may. And we get calls routinely at the agency and like, does this mean I have to? Because you said I may, you don't say I shall. And so um, we want to talk about a couple of things. One is you've prohibited the use of real estate or it's a real estate or
Realty.
realty. Is the intent though to require the phrase team or group to describe teams? Okay, you're shaking your head, Jenny. Okay. So what can they use then? They just can't use the word real estate or realty. They could use and associates or things like that, right? Could they use the phrase and associates?
So long as, and that's why I kind of like
Mhm.
that 7A, the original 7A. Like, so
Uh-huh.
yes, they could do that, but it couldn't be misleading and make it appear that they're the managing principal broker because that's already part of and it shouldn't be something that is deceptively similar to another person lawfully doing business. So it's the only prescriptive is you can't use real in the statute is real estate or realty, but all of the other rules and principles that would apply to avoid consumer confusion
Mhm.
should still apply, I think.
That takes us
Yep.
back to why we took it out then, because we're like, we've chosen to use two suggestions on ways you can describe yourself, team or group, but we've not listed anything else. All we so that's what we were doing. Let's take it out because why do we just choose two names that you can use, but not as a shall?
So Steve,
Yeah.
so actually a lot of this was taken out and put someplace else because it's become no longer really an advertising. Right. In our concept previously, real estate teams was just a method of advertising, whereas now it's actually an entity, some sort of a entity. So we do have some talk about on unlawful use of trade names and not deceptively similar
Move
names.
somewhere
So
else.
somewhere else. But and I'll just mention this, Steve, as well, that we did add into and we'll get to it later, into the real estate teams part of the rule. We did add the requirement to have team or group as part of the name. So now we can have a discussion about that when we get there, about
Yeah.
whether or not we want to have team or group as required name for the
Thanks.
name.
Thanks for the refresher on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot. I'm not sure why I have this here.
What's that?
Sorry. Listing agreements. I'm not sure why this is in here. I must have, because I don't think we made any changes to it.
Yeah.
Supervision and responsibilities of managing principal broker.
Oh, here we go. Okay. This is what Michelle was talking about. So it's been replaced over here. So we have to land on a decision here then.
Yes. And based on our internal discussion, I did include the terms team or group, but we might want to.
Yeah. We're not wedded to that. We're rather wanted to bring it up for discussion on what's the intent here, right?
Right. I think if I recall, one of the things that we talked about in regard to team or group are the groups that come together for marketing purposes, but they're not necessarily a team or a group, and how do they disclose that, or is that just a marketing thing? And because they don't share any other resources or clients, is that excluded? Like, I'm not clear on how that would work.
Mhm.
So the definition in the bill states it is a subdivision of the real estate or the registered business name. So it's in my mind, at least, as far as the bill was concerned, it was establishing that this is not just a marketing thing; it's actual like structure within the business.
I'll be right back. Sorry. Excuse me.
But Jeremy, I know you were saying that maybe you don't want to limit this.
Well, I'm open. I mean, I'm curious to hear what other people have to say about the team or group piece, but I think we use the word subdivision, in the sense that, not, as distinguished from like subsidiary or so. It's not like an entity on itself necessarily. It's just, um, rather than using that word to describe the distinction between it and the company, it was to describe the connection between it and the company, right? Like it's
Mhm.
part of this broader company because we were worried about people out there talking about teams as if they were separate. And so I don't in terms of like whether it's for marketing purposes or for whatever, like that's companies decide how they want to organize their own subdivisions, and so we were not trying to speak to that at all with the bill.
Okay.
If if we're moving past the team or group, I also just wanted to discuss C, not be identical to any registered business name. Up above it was, or deceptively similar. I personally had someone basically rip off our name, but just add a word in it. And then I would get all the complaint calls about them, and there was nothing I could do. So I like deceptive, but I just wanted to open it up for discussion.
I think
Yeah,
that
some,
language that's in that previous advertising rule is pretty good, actually, on that point.
yeah.
But
What did it say?
Let me go back up there.
Okay.
Right. The bill just says that they must operate under a name other than the registered business name. It's very non-specific like
Oh,
that. So there's room for including deceptively. I think it's fair.
okay.
I would say that there's good intent in including the word deceptively.
Okay.
The pitfall of it is that there's some subjectivity to it.
Right. And some things are a civil matter, not something for us to decide. So we oftentimes, if there's a complaint, like that's a civil matter, but if you get a judgment against you, then the licensee has to report that anyway. So yeah, we become the arbiters of that then. Not usually a big deal if it's an education letter, but once it turns into administrative actions, then we're in a gray area. Yeah. Um,
Well, and I think that, this goes back to, thinking about, different approaches. And at least the way I'm thinking about it right now is you could have a brokerage operating. There are licensees associated with that brokerage that decide to collectively work together, and they're often going to then call themselves a team or a group. But they're going to remain, they may create some advertising brand identity, but they're still associated with the same brokerage and the same managing principal broker. And my understanding is that that's what this section is trying to address. A completely different or alternate approach would be a brokerage that has some associated licensees that decide to collectively work together. They may use the word team or group or something else as long as it's not realty, or maybe they could use realty or real estate and they're actually going to go ahead and apply for a registered business name to operate, independently from a forward-facing view. And so that's where this component almost doesn't apply as much, other than that new registered business name entity. That's where I'm confused, because you can essentially kind of accomplish the same sort of forward-facing look with two very different approaches to practice here, what then forces you into different sort of, rules as you present it to the public. And, at least for this case, where a collective of licensees is going to collaborate and work together, I can't think of an example where we should provide, more opportunities than just terms team or group. And maybe if it's, associates or other semantics, then maybe it needs to go the RBN route, but I also am not familiar with, all of the collaborative efforts out there. I know what, I've been involved with, which has been an identity that has either used the word team or group in the past. So that is not an RBN.
This is definitely an area where we always get a little hung up on, like, some of these rules, and like, what are we trying to accomplish? Like, this is a rule to ensure consumer protection. What are we solving, and how much detail do we would need to get into? Did we land on, I'm sorry, did we land on what to do with team or group? Is that a must, or does that come out?
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about here. And I guess I'm trying to just think about, are there other similar, and Jason, I heard your point of, like, you're thinking usually it's going to be team or group. And if it's something else that's more suggestive of a separate company, then it should be a separate company. I'm just trying to think if there are other terms that are commonly used that aren't confusing, that are used by teams.
That's where my head is at, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I'm not sure the agency has room to scope this down, because the legislation, it says other than the registered business name. And so, I mean, we're not really fleshing something out. We're actually narrowing the requirement, and I don't think we have the authority to do that under the bill.
Yeah, the bill, we only have the authority to regulate 3B here. 3A is something we're trying to figure out our interpretation of, because your members are confused. And we get the calls, and we're trying to eliminate that confusion. Is it a prescriptive or is it permissive in 3A? We can just take it out, and then there's only one thing that's actually in statute. You cannot use realty or real estate. You can find a team. We're silent on everything else.
I know in my area, there's a lot of, best real estate group. So in that scenario, I'm assuming because real estate's in there, they have to rename their teams, because it has group in there, but it also has real estate. Like, do we need to address that, or is it like you can't use it, period?
That's a good question, Kelly. Where's the position of real estate go? Like, Kelly Ranstead real estate would be disallowed. But you mentioned, what was the name you provided as an example?
I said best. There's a bunch of them down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you not use the word real estate anywhere in your name of your team?
Right. If you
What if you said best real estate group?
I think the statute just says you can't use it, period.
Exactly.
Correct.
That's how I interpret it, because you just told me that's what it says in the bill. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with Michael in that, like, I just don't know if you guys have the authority to say you can't use team or group. Well, I actually, after talking about it here, can see the benefits of limiting it to that, but I'm not sure you have the authority to do it.
No, that's why it's permissive right now. We're not saying you must. Yes,
Yeah.
it's not.
So the way that the rule currently states is that basically it reads, if you want to use the term team or group, this is what you need to do. So basically, the only way you can do this is if you have the term team or group in your name, even though it is permissive it sounds like it's permissive in the rule. The way it actually ends up being operational is that if you want to use these terms, then you're gonna got to do these things.
It's just not clear to the everyday
No.
person though, because you use the word shall and must so many times, and here we chose to use the word may.
In their current rule.
Yeah.
I don't get the impression that we have the authority, but my thought is that, you know, give me some latitude here, but you know, the terms team and group are a little bit more playful than something like associates. Sounds a little bit more authoritative and professional. And maybe we don't, you know, I don't think we can do this based on what we're asked to do, but I almost am inclined to say, like, if you want to use terms other than team or group, like, you know, Jason Boone and Associates, you know, that sounds even more so like a brokerage than the Jason Boone team. That then you need to go the RBN route as a subsidiary. And if you're just a collective, you know, gathering of individual brokers coming together to, you know, collaborate and advertise together, then you could be a team or a group and, you know, not go the RBN route, just be associated as long as, you know, comply with advertising rules.
Yeah.
Does that thought process make sense? But I don't, again, maybe it's moot because I don't know that we have that authority.
I mean, the authority comes from the fact that a rulemaking group came together and decided this is how we want to regulate team advertising. And so it's operationalizing advertising laws. So, I mean, it can stay as is, it can come out. I mean,
It seems like you just previously, like the way you had it written before in the existing rules, you do have the authority to spell out what you believe would prevent it from being misleading.
exactly. Yeah.
But
We're trying to clarify what misleading might be.
but not say like you must only use one of these two terms.
Yeah.
But you could say like it cannot be, cannot mislead consumers to believe that it's an independent business or whatever,
Yeah.
things like that, right? Like
That's already handled somewhere else in rule by saying you can't imply that you run the entire brokerage, right? As I'm thinking about this more, from our perspective, it makes sense just to remove 3A because all that's in statute now is 3B, basically, you shall not use the word multi or real estate. Because I can tell you how this works at the agency, and in my opinion, it's actually doesn't provide any consumer protection. The people that usually complain about this send in anonymous letters in unpostmarked envelopes that we have to then send out an education letter to a licensee who may or may not have already fixed their problem. But I can't even report back to the complainant on like, hey, we took care of this. So it's right now it's just this anonymous tattletale thing that the agency is involved with that occupies time, and we've not really improved consumer protection in any meaningful way. So to us, this is one of those things where like we spent a lot of time talking about it, but I don't know what it serves other than realtors being able to tattletale on one another that they don't like. Functionally, that's what's happening on our end. So I want to make sure we're achieving something with this, right? Does that make sense? I don't want to sound like a rant, but it was actually, you kind of understand our perspective on that. Yeah,
There's also real estate brokerages that have the words group in their brokerage name. So that
yeah.
could actually create confusion that a
Mhm.
brokerage is a team. So
So
it's
we
a can of
can't
worms.
prohibit it then, right? Mhm.
Steve,
Yeah,
sort of unpacking this one in this level of detail, kind of dove in on the authority there and stuff. This, so I'm being subversive here. This rule as drafted is accurate now. And I know that for sure because it duplicates language in statute
Mhm.
almost verbatim. And because it doesn't add any other specificity, my question is, do we shelve this rule entirely for the time being until we find something we want? Like, what are we adding to the body of regulation by creating this new rule if it's mirroring statute and not adding, detail or specificity that's within the
Yeah,
scope? You know what I mean?
yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. The reason we did this is because we know it's difficult for licensees to have to source their requirements from different places.
Oh, okay.
Functionally, it's correct. I mean, functionally, we have to do nothing because it's in statute. But then the prohibition against realty and real estate exists in statute. Everything else exists in rule. And we've been told that is messy. What we're doing now is actually duplicative.
So it's sort of a guidepost for licensees when they go to the rules so that they see this. Is that
Yeah, we've been told by our workers before, yeah, we know it's in statute, but put it here too because we shouldn't
right?
be like pick and choose different places to all come up with one set of guidance.
Okay.
And if I could jump in, just because
Yeah.
the reason I did this, I knew it was duplicative. The reason I did that is because of the next section, which is the disclosure requirement.
Oh
So I
yeah.
wanted to have it kind of flow with that.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we've done this before where we've inserted things purely to help the licensee, right? So that's not new. I just wasn't looking at it that way. I was looking at it as we're interpreting, new law and but okay. Yeah, I'm back on board.
What we could do for today is replicate what we have now and just continue to operate as is. And we would just say the name of a real estate team may include team or group and shall not include realty and real estate. And then we're just mirroring what we do now. And we continue to guide on that.
That's my vote. That's what I
I'm
voted.
seeing some nodding finally on this one.
That seems appropriate.
I like that
Yeah.
idea.
Okay, so what do we change it to may? The ambiguity may still exist. Um,
So
but
Steve,
we can revisit it too. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about this from the licensing staff's perspective.
Uh-huh.
This does not require them to use the term team or group, unlike what we're currently requiring them to do now.
That's true. It doesn't.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was
Mhm.
clear on that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay,
If we revisit this again, maybe we need to work back from like, what are we trying to solve? Because sometimes you go down these paths and you're like, what problems can be fixed?
Well, if you got, I mean, I know we need to move on, but I guess it just only now just crystallized for me that okay, so you're saying that even though the language is the may and the current rule, the combination of language you're regulating to require the use of team or group.
right. So
Yeah.
here's currently, as it's written, you can use the term team or group if you meet all these requirements, and that's kind of been what we've like. So that's what we've been using as you can't do any of this stuff unless you use the term team or group.
Yeah, we're like granting access to the words.
Right, right. And it was and then
It's-
in the advertising rules specifically just advertising. It was just
Yeah.
it wasn't. We didn't contemplate other organizational structures within the business. So
And it's a novel approach for something. We're like, well, we'll let you use these if you have these conditions met, but then you also have to use that. You have to, but you cannot. It's just,
yeah, it wasn't.
So is there a way to still do like just think because you could say something like you may use the term team or group or other term to denote a team. I mean, it's a team if you do X. I mean, there might still be ways of doing what you're currently doing that sort of get to a best case scenario here.
yeah. And from a functional standpoint, it's the population that needs to use this is confused by it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The current one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So
Should we move on? Or are we still?
Where did we land?
I like the
I
idea
don't
of-
even know anymore.
I think it's a positive move to amend 3A to may include team or group, and then proceed forward with, imagine we're getting into the disclosure
Yeah.
stuff.
And we could actually just change it to May and see what transpires. I mean, like, if there's confusion, then I have other rule to point to. It's misleading. I can on misleading language.
I think including may in here, Steve, would be very helpful for licensees.
Yeah, I do too.
They're looking around to figure out what can we do just based on what Michelle's comment about current licensing rules or procedures regarding team and group. I think and I think the statute, the new law kind of points pretty clearly that way that they can use that language. I think we're going to have to look at those procedures that are currently in place that are currently telling them they can't use those words.
Yeah.
We're going to have to.
It's deleted
It
in
is,
this.
okay.
In this version, in this edit.
So we're
Right,
gonna
but I mean,
land,
go ahead, Steve.
we're gonna land on May. And keep in mind the function of a rulemaking group is I have to take feedback from the group, but I ultimately have to make a decision. And it's based on what we're experiencing at the agency and of business practice. So I'm going to relieve you of that responsibility of having to talk about it more and say we're going to go with May, and then we will give feedback on, is this creating confusion? And this wasn't, I made a bad decision or something like that. But I think we'll be fine. I really do. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Okay, this is the big part here. Yeah.
So we actually in this rule, we use the similar language to what we use for initial agency disclosure pamphlet by establishing at first contact.
Oh, yeah. Just like the initial disclosure.
Yes. So basically, we would expect them to, if they're a team and they're wanting to use the team, or operate as a team, then not only are they going to provide their initial agency disclosure pamphlet at a time, but they're also going to provide the information required in the disclosure.
And in my mind, it's much more consumer friendly in the way that it's not.
There's one that I did not catch this mistake. Number 4, we're not comfortable with.
There used to be
Oh, that's right. That was.
Yeah.
But did we changed that, didn't we?
Well, we need to change it in the current statute. We need
Oh.
to change it in current practices, the initial
Okay.
disclosure pamphlet. We just haven't gotten there yet
Okay.
because right now it says if a licensee has reason to believe that somebody else gave the disclosure pamphlet, you don't have to. It's very confusing. So we need to make it
Makes sense to me though, because you wouldn't want that consumer to have to get the same pamphlet 5 times from each team member.
But each team has different components to it.
What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. This is the
Yes.
same team.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, I missed that too.
I apologize. I'm wrong on that. Yeah.
What are you, and maybe I'm reading too much into this. What are you referring to as a team disclosure? As far, I mean, I get the agency disclosure. Are we talking about the exact same thing? Or, I mean, you're talking about them putting a disclosure together that they're a team on their own. So they actually have to, they need to present their team disclosure, right?
Right. To
Is that what
identify
you're-
who's,
Okay.
yeah, who's, five actually kind of outlines what's in there. It identifies who are members of the team and what their roles are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a great provision in the bill. It gets to the heart of that confusion about what's misleading or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I also think it handles some of the confusion about advertising, where once you're working with somebody, these problems are.
I guess why I'm looking at. So are we going to have, are different teams going to be coming up with their different, I mean, I guess that's that's just like you said in one of the emails, not to tell people what to do, just, you know, set the rules. So I guess it's just dependent on, as long as they abide by that.
Well,
That's all.
refresh my memory, are we required to create the sample form?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
I did not put that in here. I need to
yeah.
add it. I
So-
knew it in the back of mine. I was
Oh,
planning on doing
okay.
it.
Well, so you guys have a sample that's going to be in this. Is that?
We would have to create one, yeah.
It just to add some ambiguity, it says in the law is that we have to provide a disclosure to the client in the manner established by the real estate agency. So I mean, I can read that two ways. Sure, we can make a form just for simplicity. We could pre-roll a form that you fill in the blanks, so we always get the same result. Or we could give metrics like you have to include such and such information and provide it through such and such means within, you know, well, actually, the next sentence says the form established by the agency must disclose. So it is
Yeah.
actually required. So
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that kind of
Thank you.
varies throughout statute. On some cases, we're supposed to provide the essential elements of something versus the actual form. So at some point, I think we'll want to make some consistency there. And it's like, do we need to create a PDF that's on our website, or can we just have the essential elements in the rule? So that's just some inconsistency we can deal with down the road. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So basically, this is just including what's in the bill, essentially. Yeah.
Okay.
So we were just given good direction on what needs to be there. All right, moving on. We're coming up on time too, so I think we might be at a natural break.
Steve, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you again. Can we go back up for a
Yeah,
second?
yeah.
So this kind of goes, I don't want to just like flog a dead horse and sort of display my earlier confusion again, but I think in this rule, what they're getting at in the statute, in the manner provided by the real estate commissioner, right? Like I would take that. Perfect. You've got it. You actually have your cursor on it, I guess. That's 3. You already have like what methodology we have for it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Yep, no problem.
So did we want to call the day?
I think, yeah, we're coming up on 10:30. I know it says we have a lot of pages left, but we've actually made really good time. When we worked through this ourselves internally, it was the first 30 or 40 pages that took the longest, and then after a while, we're like flying through stuff. So we definitely need to reconvene. We did a placeholder for 9 o'clock on Friday. I hope most everyone can make that. Yeah.
So
I
to
know this is a
clarify,
lot of
so I
work.
understand here that
Yeah.
that language triggers at a minimum form language that the agency must produce that then would likely be adopted in a format that's can be presented by OREF and or OR in terms of forms.
Exactly. Yeah, we might have a sample form on the website, but yeah, all rep and Oregon Realtors can incorporate just the elements into their own. Yeah.
Okay. So then that's where we achieve our, because the way that the bill was written, that the agency has to come up with the form language.
Mhm.
And then assuming that the form providers, much like they have with an initial agency disclosure pamphlet, have
Yeah.
provided a layout. That's
Yeah.
how we achieve the consistency in terms of team disclosure versus
Yeah, we care about
where Michael
words,
was,
not
is
graphic
everyone's coming up
design.
with their own thing, you know.
Yeah, it's just the words that matter to us. We don't care what, like the graphic part of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. This is a big lift in a very short period of time. If you have questions in the meantime, again, just shoot us emails ahead of Friday as well. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Thanks,
great job
everyone.
on the red line. That was a
What's
lot.
that?
Great job on the red line. That was a lot of
Kudos to
work.
Michelle.
Really good.
Well, you saw what time she sent that on Friday, so you know she had a long day.
Yes. Nice job. I know that's a lot of work.
No, seriously,
Yeah.
Michelle, I've been involved in so many rulemakings with other agencies, and the efficiency with which you guys do this, and particularly by starting off with such a great product from the beginning and
Thank you.
having really thought through it, is like unique among agencies, and is so refreshing, and I just really appreciate it so much.
That means a lot.
Super helpful.
Yeah. Good. We'll see you all in a couple days.
Okay,
Okay.
Friday.
Take care. All
Bye.
right, bye.